Well, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are at. Let me know if you would. Just shifting things around here right now. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Make sure my mic's not muted. I sometimes do that in case something crazy is happening. Okay, good. Awesome. At least some of you hear me. Good. Welcome out to Trading Coaches Playbook. Are you ready to have some fun is the question. If you don't know me, I like to have a little fun out here. It's not, life's too short to be too serious all the time. So I like to have a good time. And I like my coffee. But I don't like this cough that I've been fighting for a while. So bear with me. I think I thought I had it beat earlier this week, and now it's still kind of kicking up now and then. So, and it doesn't help when I talk. It creates a little tickle in my throat that makes me want to cough. But I got my warm coffee and I got my Altoid, so hopefully that will stave it off. Let me get the disclaimer out of the way. I am not a registered broker-dealer investment advisor. I will not give you any recommendations or advice. Everything we do here is purely for educational purposes. If we do happen to mention a trade, just assume it is a paper trade or practice trade. For regulatory reasons, we do not discuss funded trading. So I actually just got off the phone. I asked for a special little bonus, and they said yes. I was a little bit surprised, but I love it. So these are the events that are coming up with Wealth Builders, me and a bunch and everybody else, Rob and Ryan and Brandon. So the Patterns of the Flash Q&A is February 8th, which is next, I believe, Wednesday. Let me go through all these and I'll come back to that. So give me just a sec. Trading You is February 9th, the day after that. And then Inner Circle is February 15th. Monster Market Movers is the 22nd. And then another Trading You is February 27th. I believe that's the one I am doing, if I remember right. Let's go back and look at my calendar. But mastermind groups every Tuesday. And then the free online workshops. You got Power Hour on Mondays at noon. Trading Coaches Playbook, this one every Friday at noon. And then Power Option Plays every Tuesday and Saturday. And Cover Call Explorer, Rob's on Thursday. And then with Brandon, E-Mini Think Tank is Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So jumping back, hello, Brenda and Helen. How are we doing? Jumping back to that Patterns of Flash Q&A. That is a live 1 hour class with me next week. We do it once a month on Patterns of Flash. So if you have a subscription to that, then you get to join me there for an hour. And we do kind of what we're doing now. But we talk about whatever I want to talk about or whatever you want to talk about. But as many of you know, I've just this month or last month, whenever we started, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, launched Weekly Whispers. So every week you're getting 20 to 30 candidates with trading plans and analysis and explanation every single week. Also doing a Q&A for that, but that's only once a quarter. And I don't know if I got lost in translation, but I thought that it was more often. But basically, we're going to do that with the Patterns of Flash Q&A. And I thought we were doing that this month, starting right out of the gates. But apparently, I misunderstood things. So we got a little mix up. But I said, hey, can we just ask, or can we let Weekly Whispers subscribers, if you're subscribed to Weekly Whispers, if you just got started with it, can we let them in the Patterns of Flash Q&A next week? And they came back and said, yeah, we'll do that. So if you have Weekly Whispers, then next week, they will get it set up on the back end. They should be able to get an email to you, letting you know that you will be able to come into the Patterns of Flash Q&A next week. If you don't have Weekly Whispers, you can jump on the 2-week trial if you want. It is still at the reduced price, I believe. I don't know, Miguel, could you double check on that? It should be at I think we're still at the promo price. I didn't ask that. I didn't even think about it. But in the confusion of my head, I was trying to figure it all out. But either way, even if you don't get the promo price, it's still a good deal. So jump on that. If you get the demo for that, or the trial for the 2 weeks, then obviously you get to join me next week. So that's one thing to get the cat. She's here somewhere. I'm sure she'll come out in the next hour. She'll probably come here and get up in my face. So, or she's not on the router, so she must not be cold. Of course, you can follow us on all the different social media platforms. So it's okay, Miguel. Don't worry about it. Price is what it's going to be, and however you want to look at it, it's a good deal either price you get. So is it? Okay. Trip said, thank you, Trip. I appreciate that. Inner Circle is the 16th. So this one here is the 16th. So I don't put this together, as you can tell. I don't know. But for those of you that are part of Inner Circle, that is the 16th, not the 15th. So thank you. I do appreciate that, Trip. So you can make sure that everybody is aware of it. Funny, I had that happen yesterday. I thought I had a awesome. Appreciate that. I thought I had an eye doctor appointment yesterday afternoon, and I had another meeting up north that I was going to in the afternoon. I try to do best I can to schedule everything after the close, but so I was up there and I got a call, and they said your appointment's tomorrow. Like, wait, what? I called back because I got a voicemail. I said I was going to come early today, but apparently I put it on the schedule a day early. So I didn't put this schedule together, but I didn't make the same mistake myself. So anyway, we're human, right? So I don't know where that came from, but so here's what we're going to talk about today. Is that real news? Wow, interesting. Okay, I hadn't seen that. I guess the next question is, okay, so here's the news that was just popped in here. China's surveillance balloon spotted in the US. What's the source? Oh, really? Oh, the Pentagon. Okay, if that's the source, it's probably legitimate. Oh, well, nobody lives in Montana, so I'm just kidding. That's not that far from me, actually. What is that? That reminds me of who's the comedian? He says that he lives in the East Coast. He gets into a bit where he's talking about the snobby East Coasters. They talk about North Korea and Jim Gaffigan talking about North Korea and how they created they had a long range missile that can reach Seattle. He's like, that's okay. I don't know what to in Seattle. Oh, they have one that can reach Chicago or something like that, or Texas or whatever. Oh, I don't know anybody there. They can reach East Coast. Oh no, now we're talking about real people. We got to do something. So anyway, it's just hit my brain. So yeah, absolutely, Stephen. He says, I don't know. I question legitimately anything the government says these days. You have to question what everybody says anymore. That's what's so crazy. We've got more information at our fingertips in a faster time than any time that we know of in history. And yet the sad reality is that you can't trust it necessarily. You don't know who's saying what, and it's up, down, and which I think is the purpose, right? If you create confusion and people don't know what's what, it's easier to deceive them, right? That's a whole different story there. But yeah, that's what's sad. I mean, how do you trust the FBI? I mean, there's a lot of things, and I just watched a few weeks ago. There's an FBI documentary about MLK and how they were spying on him, domestic spying, and they had supposedly had a whole bunch of junk on him that they were debating whether to try to use against him. So it was interesting. So I love that comparison. That's awesome. The whole world is ran like a scripted professional wrestling match. So that the world is what would you call that? Not World Wrestling Federation. World Wrestling, what was it? WWE when I was a kid. Interesting. It's crazy. All right, so let's talk about what we're here to talk about. I love the conversation, though. It's fun. And that is certainly interesting news. You would think that, obviously it hasn't spooked the market because the market is still, the NASDAQ's down a little bit. The Dow's up 40 points. I'm looking at the Russell's too. We're basically flat on the day, which is kind of fitting that we're talking about markets moving sideways. How do you trade when markets are chopping sideways and just going back and forth? It's certainly not as easy. It is very easy to trade when markets are bullish or bearish. When it's moving one direction and there's a major trend in play, it is significantly easier. That's why so many people in bull markets, especially when you start in a bull market and you learn buy the dip, like so many people did in 2020, buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip, and then they hit 22, and all of a sudden buy the dip doesn't work anymore and you get cleaned out. Same thing happened in the late 90s, early 2000s, and 2000.com crash. That's what happened to a lot of people, right? They traded bullish, 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 and everybody thought they were a genius. I said that last night on the Weekly Whispers thing. I was trying really hard not to be brutal, but it's like, if you get into, like, look at the last few days of the market, right? The market has popped. And I've, for the most part, been on the sidelines. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have been in the market long or bullish, and this market that's popped on the news is most likely, well, I don't know if I'd say most likely, but it is most likely. It's going to their head. And they think all of a sudden, I'm a genius trader because I made money. Just because you made money on a trade or two doesn't make you a great trader. So you have to be cautious. And it's one thing I say all the time. If you humble yourself, the market won't have to. If you think that you made a good trade because things went the way you thought they might, which when news comes out, you don't know. It's all been news driven the last few days, right? We had the Fed coming out. We've got lots of earnings coming out. Meta came out and blew earnings away. Well, actually, I take that back. They said good things about the future. They had terrible earnings, but their outlook was very positive. That's why the stock popped. So you've got to be careful in allowing your trading results to deceive you to believe that you're better than maybe you are. If you've made money in the bullish move in the last few days, I mean, it's obviously there's a lot of factors that could be in play. But considering that the Fed announcement could have very easily gone the opposite way, any one of these companies that came out with earnings could have said things are looking bad, and it could have gone the other way. It didn't. So just the point is, be careful what you attribute to skill versus luck. And you've got to be able to differentiate the two. If you make money on a news move like this, it's not necessarily skill. I can't say that definitively, obviously, because I don't know what you're trading or what you've done. But again, the main point is differentiate between when you made a good trade based on your skill level versus you just got lucky. Because I've had lots of both. Okay. It's always fun to get lucky when you make money. But then sometimes when it doesn't work out the way you want it to, then you equate that to your skill level. You got to do that equally on both sides. When you make money, did you do that out of skill or was it luck? When you lost money, did you lose money out of just because that's the way the market moves, or was it bad luck? You got popped this morning. 99 left balloons. I don't know what that means, but it sounds funny. But we all know markets move in three directions, right? Up, down, sideways. And how can you tell which way it's moving? You can't. Flip a coin. And this leads right into the whole deal of, whether you're lucky or was it a good trade? It's a 50-50 shot. If you and I each have a coin and we each flip one, the odds are 50-50. This is one reason I don't like when people refer to me as an expert. Oh, he's an expert. I hate that term, especially in the market, because it's a coin flip. Yeah, we can analyze things. We can look at data. We can look at charts. We can look at all kinds of these different pieces of the puzzle. And we can try to make a picture out of the puzzle. But what happens next is a mystery to everybody. There's not a soul on the planet that knows it. Can we put the odds on our side? Yeah, that's the whole point as a trader, is to analyze things, say, based on this information, I think the odds are this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And so based on that, I'm going to get in the way of it. I'm going to swing the bat. It's the bottom of the ninth. There's 2 outs. Bases are loaded. We're down by 3. Here's the pitcher. Here's this, here's this, here's this. This is what we're going to do. Here's the strategy we're going to employ in this specific scenario. Maybe, obviously you're going to swing for the fence, right? So you got to analyze the situation. And then when the pitch comes, you got to decide whether to swing or not. Because none of us ever know which way the market will move. And that's why I laugh at some of these people on, where are these social media platforms that post these things. Oh, it's going to happen. This is going to happen. I just scratch my head. Usually I laugh because I remember being there at one point or I don't know if I was ever, I probably was. I mean, we're talking 23 years ago, but I don't know if I was ever that arrogant to think that I knew what was happening, what was going to happen, but I probably said some stupid stuff like that. So I always try to offer a little grace and be like, okay, I was there at one point, but the reality is nobody knows. So nobody knows what's happening with this balloon. Oh, it's moving east across the US, but it's just a weather balloon and we can trust the CCP. It's craziness. I tell you, this world's gone mad. It's gone mad. What's the no for? Like I said, we can only analyze the current action and come up with an expectation, not a prediction. I very specifically put the word, maybe I should have put it in caps or bold, expectation. Predictions, you know, maybe I'm parsing words here, but in my mind, the way I think of predictions is this is what you are saying, here's what I think is going to happen. But when I come out and say I'm predicting this is going to happen, it seems to me, at least this is just me personally, is that it's like there's some ego involved in there. Like if it doesn't happen, then my ego is going to be deflated somehow. I don't care to make predictions. I have expectations. I expect the market to go sideways for a few weeks or maybe even a few months. I'm sure we're going to have some pops. I mean, we have some big pops here, obviously, in the last couple of days, at least on 3 of the major markets, but not the Dow. The Dow was very sideways. We'll look at that in a minute. So, in fact, I appreciate that question, Raj. Let me come back to that. But that last point there is, this is why being adaptable and flexible is critical. Being able to shift your perspective. I mean, honestly, I'm a little bit shocked. I expected to be super bearish the first part of this year. I expected the market to continue to fall. I expected January to be a pretty solid drop in the market, because that's what the data was pointing to. That's what it looked like. When you analyze things, you go, okay, the housing market's starting to drop off. Interest rates are going higher. Prices are coming down. People are going to stop spending. People have already cut back on their spending. There's all these factors that point to a very bearish 23. Well, now all of a sudden, some of the data coming in is starting to change things. It's starting to look different. Some of the earnings coming out. Some people are starting to say things different. So all of a sudden, where I was very bearish 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, now I'm more neutral than anything. I still think long-term we're bearish. I'm neutral. I'm starting to kind of think we're maybe a little bit bullish, depending on what happens over the next week or two, because we have big breakouts in 3 of the 4 major markets. The Dow's the only one that's not really running, but it ran so much in October that it might still be in a breather and trying to catch up. Or the other 3 markets are false breakouts, and the Dow is leading us, is going to lead us the next move in the next big move, right? But you've got to be able to adapt to what's going on in the market now, right? That is a good point. We must keep in mind that true info in the wrong mind can be very harmful in so many ways. Correct. Yeah, the mind is a powerful place. That's why I don't, the whole AI thing, I mean, I think there may be some benefits for it. People talking about, I just don't think, when you break down the power of our minds and what's there, I don't think we will ever, as a man, create a computer that's anywhere near as powerful as it is. I was reading something a couple weeks ago about dreams and memories and things that we have. And when you see somebody in a dream, this is the point they were making. When you see somebody's face in a dream, you don't know who they are, but your mind can't just make up a face. So the face of that person that you're seeing in the dream, even though in the dream they're a complete stranger, at some point in your life, you've seen them. There you go, Brenda. Here comes the tail. So your mind stores everything. And if you think about it for a second, I mean, just what we're doing right now, and to me, it blows my mind. And this is why, I mean, I love the mindset stuff, because it's so crazy to think of how powerful it is. Every single little thing that you're seeing right now, you're looking at me, you look at the computer, you're looking at this stock, you're looking at that stock, you're looking at 20 stocks today. Every single one of those pieces of data from every second that you're looking at things, doing things, you're taking it all in, is all recorded right here. And it's stored away. I mean, I wonder, it'd be curious if there's a way to measure how many, I don't know, terabytes the only one. I don't know what's bigger than a terabyte. It's a gigabyte. What's the next big byte? I mean, it'd be curious to know if there was a way for them to figure out how many bytes of information our brains can store. I don't think there's any way to do that. But it's kind of mind-boggling when you think about that. And it was just one of those things that when I read that, it just hit home with me. And I'm already a big believer in understanding how powerful the human mind is. But when you think about every little tiny thing that we see every single day, I mean, even right now, in the corner of my eye, I can see out the window. That's being recorded. Now, whether it pops up in the future, who knows? Petabyte. You know, I should have asked you, Trip. I would have known you should know that, but. Amen, Brenda. Absolutely. All right. So the last slide, and then we're going to go look at charts. So if you have, and I'll come back to your question, Raj. I want to get to the charts before we do that. And if you have stocks you want to look at, then we'll look. I should have known. We're going to look at the SPX and the NASDAQ, which we'll cover pretty much both of those because we'll look at the overall markets first. But how do you determine? Oh, petabyte. I like petabyte. It sounds better. I don't know why. Petra. Isn't there an actress named Petra or something? I don't know. Anyway, pay attention to price action. Okay. You got to look at the chart, right? When we're looking at analyzing the overall market, we look at the chart. First thing I look at is the chart. Is there some kind of pattern that gives me a clue as to what the markets are feeling, what traders are feeling about that specific stock, the overall market? It gives us insight into the trader's emotions. That's the beauty of technical analysis. That's why I love it. It is the visual representation of the underlying psychology or the underlying feelings of traders in any given moment. Did I say that again? The charts are a visual representation of the underlying psychology or the underlying emotions of the traders at any given moment, whether that's a stock or the market, whatever you're looking at. That is the beauty of technical analysis. It allows us, it gives us an insight into the feelings of the traders. When you look at a head and shoulders pattern, right? The bulls are in control. The bulls are still in control to make the head, but then by the time they make the right shoulder, they didn't quite make a new high, which means that they have lost some of their steam. They're not as excited as they were before the previous high. That creates a head and shoulders. The sentiment of the pattern says the bulls were strong and the bulls are getting weaker. The right shoulder is an indication that the bulls have lost some strength. If you look at a hammer pattern, we go into candlesticks, right? If the stock goes down a bunch and then it recovers and comes all the way back up almost to the open, right? You'll know what a hammer pattern looks like, right? If you don't, you need a pattern in a flash. Little plug. It's essentially the way the Japanese described it was that it's like dipping, reaching for the bottom, feeling for the bottom, right? And I know I don't know if this is specific to Japanese. I'm sure a lot of cultures do it, but I just have this picture in my mind of the boats, right? And they're out in the shallow waters and they're with the sticks pushing their boats, right? And that's kind of the analogy that they use, is that you're reaching for the bottom, trying to figure out where the bottom is. And trying to, a lot of times they're pushing off of it, but you're reaching down with a stick, trying to figure out how deep the water is. That's the concept of a hammer pattern. Well, that says that obviously we're trying to figure out, is this the bottom? If you get a hammer, that's obviously a pretty good indication that people felt bad at some point during the day, but by the end of the day, they had rallied way back up to the close. So that's the beauty of technical analysis. That's the beauty of charts. That's why I love them. The macro data is also important. Is the big picture data improving? Is it getting worse? Or is it mixed? And right now we're starting to get a little mixed data, right? Unemployment came out today, which wasn't really necessarily a good thing. The market didn't like it in the beginning. It is an indication that the economy is still in decent shape, even though there's a lot of data points that show it getting weaker. And that's what was interesting when I was reading about that this morning, because shortly after the data came out. And it makes you wonder, like, why were the numbers so much higher than expectations? I mean, what was it, 517,000? Yeah. And their expectation was 181. That's 3 times as many as they were expecting. Yeah, exactly. Anytime something's way off like that, it just raises the flags. Like, what is going on? Why would the analysts be so off? And unemployment ticked down, which the market didn't like. And the reason the market didn't like it is very simple, is because high employment means people are still making a lot of money, which means there's still demand, which means people are still buying products and services at inflated prices, which means inflation is likely to continue, if not get worse. I know it's a backwards thinking. A lot of people are like, well, wait, unemployment. If unemployment comes in good, then it should make the market go up. So last month or the month before was the same thing. People were like, I don't understand this. I thought low unemployment's good. In normal environments, yes. In an inflationary environment, it's not. So the market's like, well, the Fed's going to have to keep on raising, and they might have to get more aggressive. But that begs the question. I would love to hear if you all have some input or ideas on this, because the one thing I started thinking about is we have this dramatically higher than expected job gains, a tick down in unemployment, which I expected the opposite, considering we heard 57 or nearly 100,000 layoffs between different companies. Between a lot of the tech companies announced thousands of layoffs, tens of thousands. So why would we have such a big dramatic surprise? And the one thought that I had was that in the last several years, there's a lot of people that have had side gigs, right? You know, there's the Amazon drivers, the Uber drivers, and those are all independent contractor deals, right? Almost all of them are. And a lot of times, I mean, I'm a self-employed individual, right? I don't show up in the data. If I get fired from my job because the boss is a jerk, which he can do sometimes, I mean, it doesn't show up in the data. So if you have all these people that are self-employed that aren't in the employment data, and then because the economy has slowed down and they're not making enough. I mean, I had a gentleman at my church. He said, yeah, this guy does Uber. And this was 3-4 years ago. And he was making 6 figures as an Uber driver. He was basically a taxi, which is cool. He figured out the little nuances and how to do it, where he was making over $100,000 a year as an Uber driver. Oh, Trip. Don't do that to my ADD. But then 2020 hit, right? And Uber's not really needed. Nobody's going anywhere. So all of those people that are in that, I can't remember what there was a label for it, the sub economy, or I can't remember what it was. Somebody here probably does. I've got a friend, and he was in this situation, right? He was an independent contractor. And then because the housing market slowed down, he wasn't making enough doing that. So he went and got a regular job. This was probably 3 months ago. So he shows up in that data as a newly employed. I don't know if he's in this data. Maybe, I mean, it's been 2 or 3 months ago. And I know several people that are in that position. So I think that's what's going on here. I think that's why we have such a huge jump in jobs, because people that were independent contractors that are in a position where they couldn't make it, gig economy, thank you. They weren't making it with their side gig or their independent contractor status. And so they've had to go get regular employment, right? I think that's what's going on. I don't know. That's just speculation on my part, but that's the only thing that makes sense to me. Because in the last 2 or 3 years, that gig economy, that side hustle world has really blown up. And there's a lot of people that not only, they don't have it as just a side hustle, it's a real deal, right? I mean, that's where they make most of their money or all their money. So I don't know, again. But the last one here is, how does the market react to good or bad news? And today is a good example. Even, the other day is we had news that really ultimately isn't that great for the market, but the market has been very resilient, even though it gaps down and It'll get bad news that gaps it down, but then it recovers by the end of the day and it comes back up. So it looks like the bulls really want to push this thing higher. That's the way the sentiment looks, because it's recovering from bad news pretty easily. And you go back 6 months, it was the opposite. We get one piece of good news, it would gap up a little bit and then just sell off. And now we've kind of flipped that upside down. So, all right. I know, Brenda. Just relax. Whoops, I should probably get rid of that, huh? You know, I might cheat. For those that have patterns of flash, you know, sneak peek into the pattern of the week. I absolutely agree, Jennifer. She says, I think over time, the gig economy is good for the economy as gig grows business. Absolutely. I agree. I think it's great for the sentiment of our country, because once you're independently employed and you have to pay your own taxes and you realize and recognize just how much you're paying, and you start to question, like, what am I getting for this? You start to think a little different. I mean, I love my brother to death. And, you know, he's a W-2 employee, and he really doesn't comprehend that he's paying half of his money in taxes. Oh, it's not that much. And even just recently it came up, and I said something like, he kind of blew it off like, it'll pay half. Well, if you're paying 20% in federal taxes on your income, we have a sales tax in Washington that's 10%. There's 30% right there. But he also doesn't factor in that every time he goes to the pump, 20 or 30% of that cost is taxes. Every time you pay your cell phone bill, 10 or 20 or 30% of that is taxes. Every time you pay your electric bill, pretty much every single bill you pay, there's a tax in. So he doesn't take into account, okay, you got $1,000 in those expenditures every month. Well, a quarter of that of your everyday basic necessities is taxes. He doesn't lump that part in. I don't know why, and I tried to explain it, and anyway, it is what it is. You know, like I said, he's a good guy. He is. All right. Where was it Raj? Yeah. What are the indications of a true bottom? Love the question. And perfect timing, kind of. Well, there's one right there. This is a fairly nice looking head and shoulders, inverted head and shoulders, I should say. You can see, let me get rid of that blue line. The only thing I don't love about it is that the neckline is very steep, but it has broken out of it. It recognized it right here, right? Just a few weeks ago. And then it broke out in his rally. If we move the measure move that we would expect from this pattern, we're probably coming up to about 4,600 on the SPX. That is, in my opinion, one of the best ways. It's hard to say a true bottom, because first of all, we never know when the true bottom is in. We can speculate. We can obviously analyze things. But one thing in bear markets that we have always had, at least the last two, the two that I've been a part of, first one I didn't know I was in a bear market because I had just started. 2008, what we usually get at the end of a move, and that's why I don't think this is the real bottom. Most people that understand this don't. Usually when the bear market ends, it ends with a capitulation move where everybody throws their hands up and says, I'm done. Not everybody, but I hesitate to use the term uneducated or ignorant because it doesn't sound very nice, but that's what it is. Okay. If you don't understand the market as a whole, and it goes down and down and down, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I'm down 50%. Retail buyers, see, you're nicer than I am, Karen. I'm trying to be blunt but nice at the same time. Yeah, I mean, retail buyers, and they're famous for that, right? When your average Joe throws in the towel and says, I'm out of this market, that's usually the end. It's the complete opposite of the top, right? When your average Joe, when you're at work and the janitor is giving you stock tips, no offense to janitors because they serve a good purpose and they have important jobs, but you know what I mean, right? When somebody that doesn't know anything about the market, or they don't know that much, or maybe they just started trading. They told you they just started trading 3 months ago, and they are basically saying they're an expert. And I'm going to buy this stock. I bought this stock and it went up 30%, and I'm a genius. Goes back to my statement in the beginning, right? Don't mistake luck for skill. And so many people do that. Come into a market environment that is going one direction, and that's the direction you know, and that's the direction you trade. But then all of a sudden, it's like the old saying, right? When the tide goes out, you find out who's naked. Well, when the market turns directions and you're trading in the only market you know how to trade, and all of a sudden the tide's gone, all of a sudden you're like, uh-oh, I got nothing on. I don't have the skill I thought I had. And there's a lot of people in the last year that found themselves in that position because they thought, based on what they did in 2020 and 2021, they thought that they were brilliant traders. And they found out the hard way that they were just lucky. They really didn't have the skill set that they thought they did. This market that's choppy and sideways, this is where you find out where your skill level's at. And it's always hard to trade, right? Sometimes we say, well, this is a really hard market to trade. It's always a hard market to trade. But when it is trending or moving big in one direction, it is certainly a little bit easier, right? Because your decisions, if you don't make good decisions and a stock moves against you and it's trending one direction, usually this happens in a bull market, right? Buy the dip. You buy the dip, it keeps dipping. But then in a bull market, when everything's raging, it comes back and you didn't stop out, but it's okay, I still made money. And then you think, well, you're great because you bought it and you held through, and even though you shouldn't have, right? You broke your rule, you broke your plan, but I still made money, so I'm a good trader. That is very common in bull markets. And then when a bear market hits, you buy the dip, and then it dips, and you hold on like you did last time, and you made money last time, and you thought that was the skill level that you had, and all of a sudden that thing's expiring worthless, right? It's a common story. We've all been, well, if you've been around a little while, you've heard it or you've experienced it. I've experienced it. I know a lot of people that have. But the point being, going back to your question, Raj, is when there's irrational exuberance, like good old Greenspan said, right? When people are this market's never going to end, it's going to keep going up forever. That's usually the top. When everybody capitulates and throws in the towel and says this market's never going to stop going down, that's usually where the bottom comes in. That's a sentiment type of indicator. From a technical perspective, I always look for some kind of pattern. And what we can see is, I still have them on there. Good. So, beautiful. That's awesome. That was completely accidental, but awesomely efficient. So this one on the left here that you see, that is the bottom of the 2000 crash.com bubble. Inverted head and shoulders. There's the 08 crash, right? And the 2000 crash was not, it took about 24 months from peak to bottom. 08 crash was about 18 months from peak to bottom, from up here at the top. Well, here's the beauty, and this is why I love patterns. You see this one? And here's your, to answer your other question, Raj, where's the neckline? Well, let me see. See that right there? Beautiful, beautiful head and shoulders top. That's our clue that the trend is over. The neckline is between the 2 points. If you think of your own head and bot right here, right? So you got your shoulder, your head. If you were to draw a line and chop your neck off, which sounds terrible, but good visual, that's where the neckline is. So here you go, Raj. So here's your left shoulders right here, your right shoulders right here. So here's the part right there. So there's your neckline right there. This is why I love patterns. This is one of the reasons head and shoulders I love, because it literally showed the top in 08. It gave us an indication that this market's headed lower. Now, did anybody know that it was going to tank like this? No. But did this give us a good clue that this market's headed lower, at least for a time? And then we do the measure move. Well, and this would have been the extent of it. Watch this. This is another reason that I love patterns. That's the measured move, right? You measure from the neckline to the top of the head. Whatever that distance is about what we expect it to move if it breaks the neckline, if being the key word. And look at this, boom. It broke down and just tagged it. And then it bounced. And then obviously things got worse. But from a short-term trader's perspective, these patterns are awesome, because this is probably a 3 or 4 1 to 3 week move. I'm not even sure. 1, 2, 3, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to the bottom part. But in 4 weeks, it dropped from that 1440 down to 1270. So if you're trading the spiders, Brenda, that's a beautiful pattern. And you just killed it. The thing dropped, what's that, 125 points, 7, 8, 9% in 3 or 4 weeks. But then here's, after that crash, there's another inverted head and shoulders. See it? So this is what I'm looking for a bottom. But you can also see, and it's not as obvious in the 2000 crash, the capitulation, but you can see very clearly here in 08, 09 when it bottomed out, this big, massive drop. Okay. And then we had a V bottom, which isn't normal, but that created the head. This big type of capitulation drop is what you're looking for. That's what we're looking for to set a bottom in place. You see here now, I just jumped to current, and you can see we have an inverted head and shoulders. The thing I don't like about it is the neckline is too steep. It's still there. It's a tradable pattern. Do I think we're probably going to head higher and get up here to this 4,300? Yeah. If we get there, we'll test it. Maybe drop from there. If we break through it, yeah, I think we could be challenged as 4,600. So I don't know that we'll get that far, but who knows, right? I'm kind of surprised we're moving bullish right now, this part, the first part of this year. But here's what's interesting. So you got the SPX looks like this, right? The NASDAQ similar. It hasn't been playing. This has just been going sideways until recently. And this is obviously Meta. Microsoft earnings were not that great. They dropped off. But Amazon, Google, they all gapped up. I can't remember what they said for earnings, but the reaction was positive, or bullish, I should say. Russell also broke out of that 1900 level, and it's run north. But the Dow's just going sideways. But notice here that in October, the Dow took off and ran like crazy. I mean, 29,000 to 35, that's 20%, 5,000 points. So, and now it's just kind of stuck in a sideways range, kind of like the NASDAQ was. So the question becomes, we have the NASDAQ, which is all tech, which is just sitting here going, nah, we don't want to do anything. We're not bullish. We're not anything. And then you have the Dow that took off and ran, was super bullish, and now it's stuck in the sideways move while the NASDAQ is super bullish. So is the Dow going to lead the other markets down, or is the Dow just lagging in this case? We just have to wait and see, right? I would venture to guess the Dow is probably going to break out to the north side, but I don't know. I mean, it's up 100 points right now. And it's not normal to have this big back and forth and big discrepancies between markets. They're almost always running together, right? They're very often in tandem. But we're in the middle of earnings season, so it's not uncommon. But this is a little bit bigger discrepancy than I remember seeing. And it seems like, if I remember right, towards the end of 21, we had a similar type of situation. So sometime in 2021, when it was maybe the middle of the year, towards the end, we had a similar situation where the Russell was just going sideways. And the Dow, the NASDAQ, and the SPX were all still bullish. And I just remember that. That's crazy. I remember talking about that. And that's one of the reasons that, because a lot of people talk about saying that, you know, from a big picture perspective, the small businesses bring us out of a recession, right? 85% or something like that of businesses in this country are small business, and they drive the economy. The big guys don't. And when we go into a recession, the little guys bring us out of a recession. Well, the inverse of that would be true then too, right? So if the little guys, the Russell, was going sideways in 2000 or 2021, where did it go? Yeah, right here. So this period right here, the Russell was just going sideways. Where the SPX, you can see, this is about the same time frame, I think. I think right about here is close enough to about the same time. You can see it was still really bullish. So if these guys are leading us into recession, are they also going to lead us out? They could lead us in. That's what I was looking at here. So the question now, and interesting, is that we have one major market that is just going sideways, and the other three are still running. Which one's going to lead the way? Don't know. We'll see. It's certainly interesting, that's for sure. To kind of pop something up like that and go, oh, interesting. All right, Brenda, I'm getting there finally. I didn't miss anybody else's ticker symbol, right? Except yours. Spiders, Qs. If you have any other stocks you want to look at, let me know. If not, we'll go on to my list. We'll find ones that I like that I'm looking at. Okay. I should have known, Trip. Sorry. So again, this is almost the same. I mean, spiders, SPX is the spiders, the same thing. So it's going to be the same there, same analysis. So if we look at the SPX, there's what my expectation would be for the spiders as well. Just take a zero off, right? 430. If it continues to run, 430. If it breaks out of there, looking at probably 463. If that's a big if. I don't think that's going to happen quickly, but it could, right? I would expect this thing to fall back a little bit, or at least settle in here for a little bit before it takes off. There's the Qs in the NASDAQ. I mean, it looks almost the same. I just don't trust. This is the part that I talk a lot about odds and putting the odds on your side. When we have a big run like this, it's not likely to continue, right? I mean, look at these previous runs, right? We hit a bottom, we run here. I wonder what these are percentages. Somebody's out shooting. There's a firing range about, I don't know, 3 or 4 miles from my house, and maybe it's 5, but some days it's really quiet, and other days it gets really loud. I mean, you can tell people are out shooting their guns. And when you look at some of these moves, there's a 15% move, a 17% move, a 23% move. Where are we at now? Oopsie, that's not what I wanted. I haven't done this, so bear with me. I'm just, it's irritating. I won't grab it and move it the way I want to. So when you look at the previous bullish moves inside the bear market, you got 15%, then 17%, then 23%. Interesting. Notice each of those successive bull moves got bigger. Not by a ton, but a few percentage points. So the question is, can we take any information from that? Well, it makes sense in a lot of ways because there's not necessarily a lot of people shorting the market here, right? I mean, there might be, but they're not covering their shorts yet. Right? Why would they? If you're shorting it up, the Q's up at 400, and somewhere in this range, and it comes down here, and you think it's still going to keep going lower because we made a lower low, right? You hold through this retracement, and then it drops lower, and then maybe you start to cover here. Maybe you cover part of it. It comes down here and it gets even further. I mean, if you started shorting this thing at 400 and you're a bear and you're trading the downside of it, and you get all the way down here to 270, you're like, hey, I got a lot of profit. And so the shorts start to cover, and it creates this more volatile, more violent move to the upside, which is part of what we're seeing right now. Because if you shorted last year, then you're in a spot where you're covering. Question becomes, how far does this thing run before it pulls back? Right now, it's made a 20% move, which is pretty solid. And you can see every single one of these other moves. After the 15% move, we had a sideways for about a month or two. Here we had an 18% move to the upside, and it almost reversed immediately and dropped off. 23% move up. We had a little bit of a miniature head and shoulders. It's not beautiful, but it's there before it fell down. So the question becomes, it's already ran 20%. Is it going to run more or not? Never know. I wouldn't be too excited about taking a lot of bullish risk at this point, unless it pulls back some. I'd like to see it pull back and give some kind of indication that this 300, what's that, about 295 level, where there's some support, old resistance. If it pulls back to here and offers support and it holds that level and doesn't break through it and starts to move higher, then I might be bullish. But as of right now, I wouldn't be excited about taking a bullish trade. In fact, this is where and this is part of the reason for the topic today, is that after a run like this, it's more likely to go sideways. I don't think the bulls are done yet, but I don't think the bears are going to come in and start just pushing it lower like they did back here. So I think we're probably in for a sideways move for a time. How sideways and how long it takes, who knows? That's what I see. All right, awesome. You guys gave me a bunch. NAZ. I only got about 7 or 8 minutes left. Whoops, that's not it. Nuvian or personal income. What is this a stock? Nuvian Arizona Premium Income? Are you talking about the NASDAQ? Oh, that's what you meant. Okay. Well, NAZ is a stock. Let's look at it real quick, see if it's any good. It's been around for a while, long time. It's quarterly. It's been around since the 90s. Is that a split? Yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah, it does not look exciting. I didn't know that either. A lot of people thought they were buying Intel. They bought INTL, and turned out it was not Intel, because Intel is INTC. People sometimes Intel comes out with news and INTL moves right along with it. It's been a long time since I looked at that, but it certainly did. All right, Trip, here you go. IBM, there's the lines that I've had there for a while. I remember cleaning this off just because I was trying to get a clean look at it. I'll do that often. I don't like a lot of clutter, so I'll just go and delete every line I put on there and start fresh. But all I do is, what you'll notice when I analyze charts, I basically am looking for major support or resistance levels, dropping those lines on, then trends. I mean, obviously there's a trend in place there. And IBM's pretty solid at kind of respecting these levels that it gets. So obviously it cracked below 140. Did we hit that? Yeah, we came down basically to that 132 level. Seems like almost every time I look at IBM, it's right in the middle of the range, but we got a little window right there that it might come back and close if the market stays bullish. But yeah, it just stuck in the middle for me. I would either wait for it to come down to 132 and hold the line. If it holds the line, then I'd maybe put a hook above it. If it rallies back up here to 140 and closes that window, then I maybe if it gives any kind of bearish sign, if it can't break 140, then I put a hook down below it and look for a drop here. Of course, if it runs up here to 140 and gives indications that, any kind of signs that it might break through, then obviously you can create a trading plan to the upside. So, but yeah, in the middle of the range, I don't usually do anything with it. I just sit and wait, which is not easy. Right? If you're trading, you want to trade, right? But sometimes the best trade is no trade. Sometimes the best thing to do is be on the sidelines. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do as a trader is to be on the sidelines. I wish I was bullish the last few days, but not knowing what the Fed's going to do and what earnings are going to be like, I decided to sit it out. Do I look back and say, oh, I could have made a fortune on Amazon? Yeah, but that was earnings related. I mean, look what happened today. It's down $5 or so. So if I would have taken advantage of this move, it would have just been luck. Wouldn't have been any skill related. I mean, maybe a little bit, but so yeah, there's Amazon. A little miniature inverted head and shoulders. Don't love it, but it's definitely there. But again, this is, this move is news related. So it's hard to look at it and say, well, if I woulda, woulda, shoulda, coulda is a deadly syndrome. So be careful with it, because it's easy to look at things but did you pull the trigger when it was there? That's the hard part, is when the bullets are flying, what are you doing? It's easy to talk about it after the fact. It's like you sit there and Wheel of Fortune and you can see what's on the screen. Well, you're nice and relaxed in the comfort of your own home. When you're sitting there, the pressure's on the line, and if you don't get it, you're not going to get your 25 or 50 grand or whatever it is now. I haven't seen that for years, but it's a whole different ballgame when there's pressure on you, right? It's really easy when you're just sitting there relaxed. Sitting and analyzing stuff right now is easy. But analyzing it and saying, okay, I don't know what's going to happen next, but I got to make a decision whether to pull the trigger on this or not. Do I really want to put money at risk? How much do I want to put at risk? So it's just a whole different ballgame. Yeah, Apple went crazy this morning, gapped down with the rest of the market, and then just went nuts to the upside. They already had earnings, though, no? Didn't they come out with earnings? Isn't that what created this gap? So why have they rallied so big today? Do they have some kind of news? I don't know. I don't have for those who don't know me, I don't have a basket of stocks. I have a basket of patterns I look for. And I look once a week. I go look for patterns. I analyze the patterns. I come up with my list. That list is all I watch for the week. So I don't have, the top guys that, a lot of people have that. They have a basket of their favorite stocks. And you can trade however you want. It doesn't matter. I do what works for me. If Amazon's in a pattern, then it's on my radar. If it's not in a pattern, it's not on my radar. So, earnings was last night. Okay, I thought that gap right there was some earnings. Oh, it was 2-2 after the Google was before the market, I think, if I remember. So yeah, Apple. I wouldn't do anything with Apple right now. It's another one. Look at the run on this thing. And we could have another run like this. It's possible. If you think that it's going to do this, and here's what I tell people: if you think it's going to keep running like it did here, then you can get in. I would just do it with a heck of a lot less risk, because the odds are that we're going to have some kind of turnaround or a sideways move. And if you're trading options and it moves sideways, that's not good if you're going long. But the risk of this thing going sideways or dropping is significantly higher right now than it was back here at 135. In other words, don't wait until it's made this massive move. You got to get ahead of the move. That's the key. That's the beauty of patterns. Patterns allows you to get ahead of the move before it makes a big move. And if you've waited and now this thing's making a move, now's not the time to get on. But if you really, truly believe that it's going to keep going and it might run up here to 170, I would just take a heck of a lot less risk. I do maybe 1 or 2 contracts, because, again, the odds are that it's not going to keep running like this. This is a momentum move. And if you're a momentum trader, then maybe there's a trade here. But the odds, like I said, it's all about odds for me. The odds of it turning over are a lot higher than it continuing to run. I'm going to hustle real quick in the last couple of minutes. And so, DocuSign, this is another one. This is, kind of a news-related move to a certain degree. I did actually trade this one. I got triggered there before the Fed came out, and I decided to hang on to a little piece of it through the Fed, which was good. And that was, again, that's luck. This is one of the reasons that was fresh in my mind, because I'm looking at DocuSign going, woo! And paper trade, of course, but it wasn't me. It was just that the Fed came out in the news, the market liked the news. So it took off, and DocuSign would just happen to go with it. So it didn't really have anything to do with my skill level. Other than I analyzed the chart, I saw a little miniature ascending triangle. It's been kind of winding up. And I figured if it popped, it would probably pop pretty big. If not, it would stop me out. But again, similar, like, what do you do with it now? And it could, if it stays above that 67, that blue line that we're at there, there's the next level, about 75. But I would want to see this sit here and hold this line. I want to see it dance around, kind of like it did here. We had this big, huge pop after earnings, and it went sideways for a month and a half before it popped again. This is the kind of thing I want to see. I want to see, after a move like this, I want to see it settle down, relax, catch its breath. And then if it gives an indication that it might pop, then I want to get in the way and swing the bat. Make sense? AMD, a lot of these are going to be similar pictures. The analysis is going to kind of be the same, because a lot of them popped on, these guys popped on earnings, AMD did. And then the Fed, the Fed popped almost everybody. So especially the tech companies, because they've been so beat down. So another one I'd want to see go sideways before I was interested in a bullish move or have it pull back some. Micron, very similar. This has actually kind of been dancing around here for a week or two. So if it broke north of here at this point, now that it's not just gone, it's run a bunch here, but at least over the last week or two, it's kind of settled in. So if it broke north of that 64 area, then looks like the next major level is about 72. Karen, yes. Sorry, I saw your question. I meant to come back to it. Did I miss anybody else's, did I? Oh, Barry, sorry. How long would it take to go reach 4630? Oh, interesting. I did see that question. Sorry, Barry, if I missed it. How long would it take to go up to reach the 4630? You talk about the SPX? No idea. I wish I could give you an answer. We never know how fast or slow it's going to be. That's why if you're trading options, you need to buy when you do your analysis, you've got to look at it and say, okay, how long might it take to get there? How long do I expect it to get there? And then buy enough time to cover that if you're trading an option. That's virtually an impossible question to answer. I wish I could. But yeah, I mean, how long it takes to get there? It could be one day. The market could go crazy. It could take 6 months. So I think, well, whoops. I think we're talking about the SPX, but the spiders will work. So I get up to here. I mean, if you look back historically at runs that we've had in the past and how long they take to get there, I mean, that would be one way to get some kind of idea. Go back and look at historical moves, especially, and you could realistically say, okay, at the bottom of 09, when we had a bottom, which was, I think, a true bottom. I don't think we have a true bottom here. I don't think it's going to happen in a day or two. Probably 3 to 6 months, I would estimate, if I was to put a number on it, because they usually don't run that far that fast. But yeah, to give you a guesstimate of what I would analyze it based on the chart, 3 to 6 months, I think. Did we look at we looked at Micron, right? But Karen asked, do you draw trend lines off the candle bodies or off the wicks, or do you use a line chart for drawing lines? Yes. I use the, okay, see you, Trip, thanks. I use both, Karen. Typically what I will do is I'll go draw the major, and you see me do it pretty much all day today, is I'll draw the major, I'll go to I have mine set up where I hit 0 and I get a daily chart, right? A line chart. I hit W for weekly. Now I've got weekly, I hit M for monthly. And there's pretty much the entire history. And I will draw the major points, go back historically and look at it. Just got a little more lines than I would, well, there's some down here, but, and then I draw the major support or resistance levels, and then I'll bring it back in closer and closer and just adjust them accordingly, right? So there's the lines based on the line chart. And then when I come into candle, if it needs a minor adjustment, I will, I'll slide it up or down based on the shadows. If the shadows give some kind of indication of if it changes things, you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but so I typically will draw off of close line charts, the close, right? But then if adjusting to the candle wicks makes sense, then I'll do it. So there's not a one way to do it. There's not a right way or wrong way to do it. Some people trade only off of wicks and shadows. Some people trade only off of lines. There's not a right or wrong answer. So, but that's the way I do it. Like I said, I draw off the close, off the lines, and then we'll adjust it if it warrants it, right? So, yeah, you're welcome. And okay, good. Did I miss any questions? Apple is down Google before the market. Amazon, okay. You're welcome, Raj. Thanks for asking. I mean, it's a good question. So they're all really good questions today. It's all every question's a good question, right? I'm the master of asking stupid questions, but sometimes a stupid question leads to a good question, right? So I've learned the hard way. You just ask a question, and it doesn't matter because sometimes it leads to a good thought. So I have lots of weird, crazy thoughts in there, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wait a minute, what about this? So sometimes it's a good leader, if you will. So any other real quick? Spider's tanking, huh? Yeah, have you noticed this does that a lot? We get a big run out of the market, and then all of a sudden in 30 minutes, it'll be up, 100 points, 150 points or whatever, in the market. And then all of a sudden it'll just get hammered in half hour, 40 minutes. Gold's been getting hammered the last couple of days. Yes, Brenda, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Only one. Well, I don't totally agree with that. There are stupid questions. But like I say, sometimes the stupid question leads to a good question, or it leads to a good answer. Because I've asked lots of stupid questions in my life. Because as soon as I ask it, sometimes it comes out of my mouth and I'm like, okay, that was a dumb question. But like I say, and if it is, then it's a learning experience, right? If I ask a dumb question, okay, I learned not to ask that question again. So, but yeah, when it comes to trading, I mean, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot coming at us. So don't feel, don't be afraid to ask a question, because I'm not going to make fun of you. because I've asked lots and lots and lots. I've been at this 23 years now. And I used to ask some really dumb questions. But like I say, it always ends up good. And you always learn something. So, all right. Any other? I hope this thing keeps tanking a bunch, or at least I hope the Russell does. Just bleed. All right. One final cough before I say goodbye. Appreciate y'all coming out and having some fun. So like I say, if you want to jump on the Weekly Whispers, get the 2-week trial. And then next Wednesday, you can join me in the Patterns of Flash class. That's a nice little bonus that Suzanne let me throw in there. So I appreciate it. Thanks, Miguel. There's a link there in the deal. If you want to jump on the Weekly Whispers. So, or Patterns of Flash, either one. If you haven't had either one of them, then just go get them both. That's what I would say. Or pick and choose, your choice. So for those of you that get in, we will see you all next Wednesday. The rest of you, we will see you on the next Trading Coaches Playbook or wherever we meet up next time. Typically, Karen, yes. Friday at some point. I don't know. I don't want to say AM. I'm not sure when the tech guys get it out. I send it up usually Thursday night. So they have it when they get in Friday morning, but it probably takes them a while to make me look good is what I'm guessing. I'm not sure when it comes out exactly, when they get it uploaded and released. I will keep an eye. I'll ask about that. Ask the support team if you can send a message and ask them about that. Yeah, I'm not 100% certain when it comes out on Friday, but you should have it on Friday at some point. So clear as mud. All right. Y'all have a wonderful weekend. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.